Hi everybody and welcome back to Lori's Boston Found. My name is Lori. I'm a reseller on Poshmark and on eBay. Today, finally, I have a recap from probably the most epic buyout I have ever made as a reseller in the 3 years that I've been doing it. And I did it on a whim and it's been quite a journey. Somebody from Instagram reached out to me who was an estate sale dealer. They specialize in going into homes after somebody passes and helping the family liquidate and clear out their items. This particular family was not interested in selling any of their clothing, handbags, shoes, accessories, that type of thing through the estate sale. That was more like an online formal estate sale auction. They just wanted to get rid of all the clothes, handbags, and such. So this woman reached out to me and she said, I will sell you a ton of items at bins prices. This family just wants it gone. She said, I saw you on social media and I thought you might be interested. She was local, so we decided to meet in the parking lot of a grocery store nearby, and I had no idea what I was getting into. Of course, I will link the video here if you would like to check that out. I took you along with me, and in the end, I ended up purchasing 13 trash bags full of things I wasn't sure for $250. It was a steal, to say the least. I had over 250 items. Not all of them were sellable. Not all of them I have listed, but basically it was about $1 per item. She wasn't kidding when she said bins prices. I looked at a few things, a couple new tag Dooney and Burke's, a couple vintage Coach bags, peeked in, saw some vintage clothing from Ralph Lauren and some interesting pieces, and I saw enough to say, let's go for it. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is how it all unfolded, where I ended up with sales, what sold, what I learned through this process, would I do it again, all that fun stuff. So let's just jump right into it. I tackled this without much thought in the beginning, and I'm really glad that I went for it because I learned a little bit about myself. I made a decent amount of money, and there were a few surprises along the way. I have sold approximately 43 of these items online. My main platform being Poshmark. I sold the bulk of them on Poshmark. I sold one item on Amazon, and I sold 5 items on eBay. Although eBay, I can only go back 3 months. I may have sold a couple other items. This is not going to be like a to the penny sort of what I made type of video. We would be here all day. I just wanted to give you a ballpark of how this went, where items ended up selling and whatnot. 43 items sold for, before fees, $2,153 in sales. 100 of those dollars I'm accounting for at Buffalo Exchange. I went to Buffalo Exchange on 2 occasions. One time I got $75, $76 in cash. Another time I got $55, but there were a few other things mixed in with the items that I brought from the estate sale. So I rounded down to 100 instead of 126, 130. So in my thumbnail, I talk about profiting over $2,000 so far on this estate sale. And some of that is because of what my ad revenue was. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to go over my top 7 sales. So I basically got the items that sold for $78 or more. And some of them might surprise you. They certainly surprised me. One of the things that I loved about this buyout is that there were certain brands and certain items that I would have passed over 100% before this estate sale. But because I kind of inherited all of these things with this buyout, there were certain items and brands that stood out that now I see differently when I'm out in the wild that I would absolutely pick up, and maybe before I wouldn't. I also want to say that I still have a lot of items listed. 2 items I have sent to the RealReal, and somebody recently inquired about this. They said, whatever happened to the YSL belt from your buyout? So I had this really beautiful chain belt from Yves Saint Laurent. That was a total score at the bottom of this bag. Like I held it up. It was a tiny little tag that said YSL. Blown away that I had YSL in this bag. This woman was full of surprises. It was really exciting. When I spoke to my rep at the RealReal, she said that they had one item that had sold that was a chain belt from Yves Saint Laurent that sold in the $600 range. So she suspects that when they get my belt, which I just sent out last week, they have my items, but they haven't priced them, so I can't share that with you. I am hopeful that my belt will be listed at that $600 mark or more. She thought it might be more in the $800 range, but I'm being a little bit conservative, so I'm gonna say maybe $600. And then there was this suede belt that was pretty beat up, double buckle, like in this maroon suede, that I also sent to them. I'm not even sure they're going to accept that. If they do, I don't expect them to list that for much above $100. But those are payouts that I haven't received yet, but I'm anticipating that that YSL belt should be a good payout. What I also learned is that there are always so many moving parts. I have things at ThreadUp that won't be processed until December 25th. I have things in my basement that I still haven't listed. There are things listed on both eBay and Poshmark that haven't sold yet. But it's safe to say that after 6 months, having profited what I did profit, this was a great buyout. There were times where I really didn't want to list some of these things because a lot of these things I wasn't super passionate about. For example, there were several pairs of new with tag black wool dress pants. From Talbot's and from J.Jill, a lot of linen from J.Jill. J.Jill I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But some of those pants, I would just like look at them and I would dread listing them. And some of those items are still in my death pile because I dread listing them. Luckily, I do have a high school helper who does a lot of my listings for me. So some of those pieces that I would have really struggled to get out of my death pile, Caitlin ended up listing for me because she doesn't really care what I put in front of her. She just photographs them and takes the measurements. And I'm actually going to post within the week some mystery boxes for Lori Goldstein, Talbot's, and J.Jill that I'm gonna do 4 pieces for $33 and just move the items. A lot of people reached out to me after my first video and said, I'm interested in the Talbot's pants, I'm interested in the Lori Goldstein, and I actually got a little bit overwhelmed. So I wasn't the best about getting a lot of those items listed and out to people who would have potentially bought them for me. And it was a result of me just not being motivated by the items. So my way of working through that at this stage of the game is to do, 3 to 7 mystery boxes with certain brands, price them where they're going to be about $7 to $8 per item, and then just move them out. I've always thought this before, but this buyout definitely reinforced the fact that for me, I really do sometimes need to be passionate about an item or excited about an item to come home and get it listed. Otherwise, it will sit. Okay, so let's go over my top sales. We're gonna start with a brand that I've never sold before, and it is Picolinos. These were new in box, these gorgeous shoes, these leather, like laser cut, detailed, gorgeous shoes. I had this really unique color in almost like this teal. They ended up selling for $78. These are the Puerto Vallarta style, and they sold for $78 on Poshmark. Next up were these UGG Australian boots. They were the Brooks boots and they were leather. They were very nice. These look like brand new. This was the very first thing that sold from this entire buyout. And I remember being so excited because these sold for $90 in the dead of summer. I probably could have gotten more, but I was just so excited to get my first sale from this buyout. And after this sale, even after fees, I was like, wow, I am 1/3 of the way to paying for this entire buyout, and I only sold 1 pair of boots. So I remember being very excited about those. The next item, as far as like from lowest to highest value, were these Riker shoes, and I sold these on Amazon. They were new with tag. When I scanned them, and a couple people have asked me about Amazon, like, what do you mean by when you scan them? I have just an Amazon seller app. On Amazon, you don't create the listings 9 times out of 10. You can create the listings, but it's very, very specific about how you have to create a listing on Amazon because several people are on one listing. It's different than Poshmark. Like on Poshmark, I create the listing, that's my listing. Nobody else is going to use my exact description on my listing. They can copy and paste it to their own listing, but it is my listing. On Amazon, there is a SKU attached to a particular item, and then several sellers can get on that SKU, which is why it's very hard to create the SKU. Some people have mastered it. I have not touched it. If I scan something and it's not on Amazon, I typically don't attempt to sell it because I'm not going to create a listing on Amazon. That's like the very shortened version of what I mean when I talk about scanning something. And then sometimes I'm gated in categories and then I can't sell on a certain SKU. People have asked me to create some content around Amazon and I'm really not ready to do that. I don't feel like I'm skilled enough in Amazon. I know the very basics about it. Maybe one day I will do a very, very stripped down basic version. But anyways, I scanned these Riker shoes and they scanned. And not only did they scan, many of the listings were between like $80 and $130. So I priced mine at $99. They were new in box. Again, I paid about $1 for them and they sold almost immediately. I kind of wish I had listed them a little bit higher after. I sell everything FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon, as opposed to MF, which is merchant fulfilled. I don't do any merchant fulfilled. Your profit margins are higher when you fulfill the item on your own, but then you have to deal with all the customer service stuff. So when I started on Amazon, I decided I was only going to do FBA items because I have my own customer service stuff to deal with, my own inventory on Poshmark and on eBay. I decided when I started on Amazon, I was going to use it as a platform where I could literally send stuff and forget about it. I'm sure some of my items are still returned and Amazon takes that out of my profits, but I don't deal with any of the customer service issues, but that comes with a price. I think they took like $25, $28. So they took upwards of like 25, 28% of that sale. But I still want to talk a little bit about Amazon because I think it's interesting. Next up were two Dooney bags that both sold for $100. One was this Dooney Saffiano leather bag for $100. I mentioned in my previous videos about this buyout that the woman whose stuff I purchased loved to shop on QVC. So I ended up with a lot of new with tag items from QVC. That's where a lot of the Lori Goldstein pieces came from. And that's where a lot of the Dooney and Burke pieces came from. So the second bag that sold was a 3-piece hobo collection, also new with tag, sold for $100. The two biggest price tags for my sales were both vintage Coach items. One was this Coach binocular bag that sold for $134. I'm kind of going through these fast because I've covered these in other What Sold videos, but these are specific to the buyout. This bag was so unique. All of her stuff was in beautiful condition. And the top earner of this entire haul, probably until that YSL bag sells, was this vintage two-tone courier bag made in New York City. It sold for $325. What's interesting about this buyout is I listed some of those high-priced items right away. Those were the things I was passionate about. Those were the things I was excited to list. And in the end, they ended up selling the fastest and bringing me the most money. The rest of the stuff were like $17, $25, $30. Those were the biggies and they sold pretty fast. Those 7 items accounted for $926 of my sale. My battery died and the Wolf Wagon just brought Lulu back. So she just got groomed. Do you want to see how cute she looks? Come on, show everybody. You're so pretty. She got a little Christmas elephant, right? You look beautiful, Lulu. Yes, you do. See the camera? You're so pretty. There's your squeaky. Here you go. Okay. She's happy girl. All right. Sorry for that interruption. So I was reflecting on how those 7 sales equaled close to $1,000, which accounted for, almost half of my total sales on 43 items. I want to spend a little time talking about J.Jill. I have written down here that of the 43 items that I sold, 12 were J.Jill items, totaling $309 in sales. So after the 20% fees taken from the different platforms, I would have made $247 before cost of goods, which is crazy to me because what that says to me is just J.Jill almost paid for this entire haul, all 13 bags selling 12 J.Jill items. J.Jill is one of the brands that now I pay attention to. I kept a couple of the J.Jill pieces. I have some black linen pants that are just incredibly comfortable and people really like J.Jill. So it's one of those mall brands that I am paying closer attention to because I had some pretty good luck selling J.Jill. What else did I want to share with you? One of the things I really loved selling in this sale and learning about were some of the vintage pieces. So I just want to share with you a couple items that come to mind. The beret that I was wearing in the haul video after that first initial video, I loved that. It was like a cinnamon colored beret. It only sold for like $28, but it was made in France and I just loved it. That was something that I really loved. Just this past week, I sold a vintage cardigan sweater from Ralph Lauren that was this heavy, heavy wool. It sold for $60. I have another Ralph Lauren sweater. It's a V-neck, kind of cropped sweater with little puffy sleeves. That's also wool from the 80s. It was really fun to just take a peek into someone's style and see all of these great items from the early 80s to probably the late 90s. But I would say 80 to 95% of these items were vintage. I think some of the items that were purchased more recently, like the Dooney and Burke stuff, were purchased through QVC. Those are probably within the past 5 or 10 years, probably not vintage. I sold some Allbird wool runners that were in a really unique color. That was one of my early sales. Those sold for $60. I sold a second pair of Ugg boots. The other ones were like a chocolate brown suede, a little bit of a more typical. Oh, I want to speak a little bit about YouTube. I don't typically share my YouTube numbers over here on a regular basis when it comes to what sold videos. And I don't necessarily think that what my ad revenue is on YouTube really correlates to a specific video. I mean, I have certain videos that get more views than others, but this I thought was worth mentioning because it was specific to this estate sale. You know, the first video, which was when I went and picked up the stuff and I had everything on my back deck. And then the second video was just a haul for the remaining items that I didn't get to in the first video. What's very special to me is that my video called Trash or Treasure, which was the day that I picked everything up, got the 13 bags, that's my highest viewed video to date. I've been on YouTube, it will be 3 years in January of 2022 that I've been on YouTube. I have done over 275 videos, I think 280 to be exact. And that video, Trash or Treasure, has over 43,000 views. It's my highest viewed video ever. It has over 10,000 hours of watch time. I gained 974 subs from that one video, and I made $624.53 in ad revenue, which is the most I've ever made on a single video. And then the follow-up video, there are over 9,000 views on that, the one where I'm wearing the beret. I gained 35 subs from that video and made $174.80 in ad revenue. So in total, between those two videos, I'm at $799.33 in ad revenue, which to me, I feel like is very significant because if it weren't for this buyout, those videos would have never happened. So I'm including that in my revenue. So when I add that to my totals, I sold 43 items plus what I sold at Buffalo Exchange, $2,153 in sales between those two places, online in Buffalo. Take the $100 out from Buffalo Exchange and I take out my 20% from my online platforms. That gives me $1,742.40 after fees. My cost of goods was $250. Subtract that, I'm at $1,492.40. And then if I add my ad revenue of $799.33, that brings my total up to for my profit on this to $2,291.73. And that's where the over $2,000 in profit came into play. My ad revenue is pretty significant in my profits for this. And I realize that that's not typical for all resellers. Not everybody has a YouTube channel, but for me, that really boosted the revenue that I made from this particular estate sale. And it was a lot of fun. My audience seemed to enjoy it. And I actually have another buyout coming up in the upcoming weeks. I'm going to share it with you on my Happy Holidays series. I recently bought 55 items from somebody I know. My profit is not going to be anywhere near what my profit was on this. I think I paid a lot more for a lot fewer items, and there are no surprises. I knew everything that I was buying. Like the YSL belt was such a surprise here, but it's still pretty exciting, some of the items that I picked up there. And if you follow me on Instagram, I did make a post about it last week as a little bit of a preview. I went in with a different set of eyes to this buyout, having been through one already, but it's still really exciting, and I'm excited to share that with you. I think that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed this recap of my first big estate sale buyout. It was definitely a fun learning experience, and it was profitable, so I would consider it a win all around. I look forward to selling more items from this, but I wanted to kind of wrap this up before I introduce another buyout to you. This is the last video you'll see before Happy Holidays, which starts on December 1st and will go through December 10th. I am sharing a video with you every day for 10 days in the month of December for those first 10 days. I have a really exciting lineup for you, so if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, and specifically if you are interested in the upcoming Happy Holidays series, turn on your bell notifications and you will be notified every time I release a video. Leave a comment below if you've ever done a big buyout. I'm curious what your results were, if you would do it again, if you enjoyed it, if it was too much work. I want to hear all your thoughts. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.